Well, we had to have secret clearances and everything for them too,
Right,
so
right.
I can't tell you too much. But
Or you have to kill me.
yeah. No.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Shifting Gears. My name's Greyson Harris, and I'm joined today by Gary Shostak. He's our Director of Compliance here at KCH Transportation. Compliance, hard word for me to say apparently, to start right off the gate with. We have Gary here to talk to you guys about something that has been a rising issue really in the freight world, a sticking issue really in the supply chain for the past little bit, but it has increased significantly in the last few years, and we're talking about cargo theft. There have been a lot of worrying trends that have emerged in the last few years. As a matter of fact, there was a 59% increase in just the third quarter of 2023 compared to the same period in 2022. The total value of stolen goods has also been increasing along with the frequency. Allianz, as a matter of fact, they reported a 16% rise in the value of stolen commodities between 2021 and 2022. So they're getting better at stealing the right stuff, and they're also shifting their targets as well. And a lot of this depends on what the economy is doing, but it can be anything from electronics that they're stealing. Those are probably the most popular, and it can be anything from household items to food, beverages. Really just depends on what will sell in the economy at that time. And well, they're getting smarter about it too. It's a lot of evolving tactics, a little bit less of just cranking open the back of a trailer and hoping that you find something good in there. The rise of technology has made moving freight a lot easier, but it's also made stealing freight a lot easier as well. So you have to be aware of those risks and what kind of insurance and compliance that you have to keep yourself and your customers and your freight safe. So we have Gary here to talk about some of those things here. Gary, one of the first questions I wanted to ask you is, what are the different types of cargo theft?
Other than the standard breaking open a seal at a truck stop and taking the freight out, the other is a little bit more sophisticated, where the carriers are having their identity stolen from other criminals. It could be organized crime, or it's just one guy that's trying to target a certain individual carrier. And once they assume their identity, if you don't have a compliance program in place to actually vet the carrier, probe to see if it's the actual person, you're likely to have that shipment stolen.
What are some ways that these thieves are able to steal identities? Like, what are some of the weaknesses or blind spots that they are exploiting?
Say if a broker or a shipper posts their load on a load board, they'll create an identity from a carrier who's already on there. And if the person booking the load with that particular carrier doesn't actually investigate to discover who these people actually are, like for example, one thing they use is the email address. They'll create a Gmail account and they might have a number in it or take off a letter, very simple like that. If the person booking the load or the 3PL broker doesn't notice that there's an error or a change in that email address, they'll use that. So they're basically preying on someone's laziness.
You gotta check the fine print, huh?
Exactly. So that's very simple. That's how a lot of these guys are doing it. It's not that sophisticated.
What are some of the best ways that logistics companies, brokers, shippers can mitigate some of those risks and keep themselves and their freight safe?
Vetting the carriers. Vetting is short for investigate to discover. Your due diligence matters. Contracts in place, calling the phone number. As technology has changed over the years, in the past 20 years, the platforms that companies can use to vet carriers has gotten better. The company that we use is My Carrier Portal, and they're always coming up with new tools. And just recently they have a new tool called VIN validation, where you can, at the day of pickup, send the driver a text message. The driver can send you back the truck number, the DOT door number, the VIN number in a text message, so you have it to corroborate with exactly who the carrier is picking up your load. It's a new process, and I think it's fantastic. Yeah. It's really going to help out.
What are some things that maybe some truck drivers have learned in terms of mitigating their own risk?
Park in highly lit truck stops with security on hand. Use CT-PAT seals on your trailers, and just keep a mindful eye. If you have a gut feeling that this is not a safe place, you shouldn't park there. You're probably right.
Yeah, especially if you're hauling a bunch of valuable items. Speaking of which, what are, in your experience, the most common commodities that get taken?
The ones that we see the most are food and beverage. Beverage, we're talking like sodas and things like that. And then like small appliances, air fryers, toasters, heaters, things like that. These are the most common thefts. They're easy to unload at a flea market, Facebook Marketplace, and no one knows the wiser.
Yeah, and you were telling me earlier, it surprised me a little bit that there really isn't a paper trail with this kind of stuff. Can you kind of explain how that works?
Imagine if you went to walmart and you saw a air fryer on the shelf there. There's no paper trail with that. It's on the shelf. So if you have a full truckload of air fryers,
sure, yeah,
and you want to unload them at a flea market, no one's going to know where it came from. They just know there's an an air fryer on the shelf and I can purchase it at this time.
Yeah.
Or Facebook Marketplace, they're going to just have it brand new in the box ready to go.
Thieves are using more of an indirect theft approach where they're actually able to pose as, other trucking companies, legit trucking companies. I guess that's where I'm more confused as to how they're able to evade discovery, is because obviously it's fake from the beginning, but at least there is an initial point of communication and contact. I guess, like, where does it then leave and enter the shadows?
So what they do is, once they assume the identity and you've given them the paperwork to process the load boat, so to speak, the rate tender, the confirmation, what they do in turn is actually book it with another trucking company. So that's the double brokering part of it. So once they've booked it with the carrier that's actually going to deliver the product, they say, I'm the broker now, and they give them new paperwork and a new rate confirmation at a different price. And then the delivering carriers, a victim kind of as well, they're actually just picking up a load they think that's a normal shipment.
Yeah.
And they deliver it to the address where the double broker told them to go. That shipment is gone now.
That's smarter than a lot of actual criminals, or I guess they are actual criminals.
It's smart until they get caught, and then it's a grand felony, anything over $500. So they think it's just one shipment, but anything over a certain dollar value becomes a felony.
Yeah.
If that guy ever gets caught, we have dispatched officers to a location. We just had one shipment that the driver was arrested. So there's ways you can do it. There's also other vehicles you can use as far as reporting, like CargoNet's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of relationships with warehouses all over the country. So when they see something suspicious come in, they report it, and they put the two entities together and say, I think I got your shipment here, and you're able to recover things.
What are some of the ramifications of not having proper insurance or not really adhering to the compliance correctly?
So if you don't have proper insurance for the correct valuation of the shipment, it should be that individual's burden to communicate with the customer to make sure that they have enough valuation for that particular shipment. In the event that doesn't happen, it's an economic impact on the business. You want to make your customer whole, so you have to go to other means basically affecting the company's cash flow, margin percentages, ability to do things with the company that you couldn't do because the money's going out as opposed to coming in.
Well, then what are some of the mistakes that some companies might make? Maybe they think they have the right insurance or they think they're complying, but a lot of them might make this common mistake.
So the biggest mistake I see is cargo insurance. There's all risk. So whatever happens to that shipment, fire, flood, theft, all that. If you don't have all risk cargo insurance, you're subject to the policyholder of the trucking company's exclusions. For example, a trucking company, they can say on their policy, okay, we can haul this, but not this, and this. Mm-hmm. So in the event that that's not protected, in the event of a loss, the insurance company flat out denies it. There's not a lot of giving back and forth on that. They just basically send you a denial letter and saying we're not paying. So it behooves that person to go to the extra step and make sure they have all risk cargo insurance.
With that all risk that you're mentioning, then does that cover commodities as well, or is it just events? For example, are there different types of insurance and compliance that you would need if you're hauling live animals, for example, as opposed to hauling soda?
Right. So all risk covers pretty much everything. It might exclude specific perils like tornado or hurricane, things like that. But all risk should cover every commodity. It's very difficult as a broker to know every exclusion to the policy. You might have to probe a little bit more deeper into the insurance company. Some platforms will display the exclusions, or you can just request at the time that you onboard a new carrier. If you don't have that, if you see specific things on an insurance certificate, like for example, one of my biggest issues is scheduled auto only insurance.
Okay.
And what that means is the trucking company must report to the insurer, their agent, I have this list of trucks, this list of trailers, and this list of drivers. Anything that's not on that specific report to their insurance company will not be covered. So Let me give you a really bad example. If you hire a trucking company to pick up our shipment, the driver picks it up, takes it down the road. Oh, we have a claim. It could be just for cargo claim. It could be an accident. So what we do is we try to file a claim on a customer's behalf with the carrier's insurance company. And they go, so-and-so is not a driver under the policy on the scheduled auto policy. So-and-so, this truck is not scheduled. So what that trucking company did was they just hired an owner operator or another trucking company. Unbeknownst to us, the claim is going to get denied. So we have to do a due diligence to see where this guy came from, what trucking company is he actually working for, what's their authority, find find that driver's insurance company, try to file with them. So it creates a backlog.
You turn into a private investigator in a way.
You basically are a small town PI, but that's why it's so important when you see scheduled auto insurance on a insurance certificate. That's a first red flag. What you want to see is any auto checked. It's little boxes on the certificate. If you see any auto, that's good to go, because that means whoever was driving that particular shipment will be covered under their insurance policy.
What would be the craziest instance of either a cargo theft or a cargo theft attempt? And of course, you can talk in very vague terms about this, but what's an interesting story that you might be able to share with us in that regard?
I worked for a company that we hauled arms, ammunitions, and explosives for the military. Basically,
that's why you have to be vague, because it's the military. Yeah.
Well, we had to have secret clearances and everything for them,
right,
too, so I can't tell you too much, but...
you have to kill me.
Yeah. No. We'd haul basically military commodities from base to base. The training required to do this type of service requires security awareness training. And one of them is, if you're being followed down the road, you should look through your mirrors occasionally to see if it's the same, Ford Taurus still following after 5 miles, right? So we had one instance, and the driver pulled over. Inside the cab, there's a panic button that relays to the defense industry's security service. And he felt like he was being followed from this guy for a couple miles. He pulls over, hits the button, and it was near a military base. Next thing you know, helicopters are hovering over the location. Police show up.
SEAL Team 6 rappels down.
So they pulled him over, realized it was just a guy on the same road going the same direction. They pulled the other guy over too, because they have cameras everywhere nowadays. But that's basically an attempted hijack.
Imagine not paying a parking ticket, and then you're driving down the road, and an hour later, a Black Hawk helicopter lands in front of you, and you're like, I should have paid that parking ticket.
Yeah.
Gary, was there anything I missed that you think might be important in the conversation there that I might have skipped over?
The biggest advice I could give to any company is you can build the most robust vetting program, use the best tools that you have necessary, spend as much money as you want to invest in those platforms. But if the company doesn't work the program, it will fail. So if you have all these tools, you have access to all these features and the technology as things change. If someone doesn't actually do them and use them, you will be subject to these things over and over and over again. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, Gary, thank you for joining us, man. I feel like I actually learned way more about cargo theft than I did before, and I also learned that don't follow a truck for too long, or else you might you might end up on the U.S. Army's most wanted list.
Yeah, you never know what's in front of you.
You never know what's in front of you. So, guys, if you want to know anything more about KCH, we have our website and our social medias, and we have newsletters and all that good stuff down in the description. Let us know if you have any ideas for future episodes. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us, and we will catch you next time.